is a reflection of the fact that climate change is actually real. It's here, it's now. It's not something in the future. And the impact of it varies from country to country. What we've seen, not desertification in the way that we've seen in Madagascar, but the opposite. So abnormally heavy rains, which has just as much of a devastating effect. So whether it's landslides, whether it's causing failure of crops, whether it's causing mudslides, or in fact, resulting in runoffs, which mean there's plenty of water but not a drop to drink, resulting in water shortages. These are today real impacts that we're experiencing, and it is because of climate change.
Do you have any sense that what's happening here at COP is anything like enough?
That's a really good question. We've all got to be optimistic. One of the challenges that we keep talking about as cities is that perhaps there aren't enough city voices coming into this mix, but we're trying to change that. Do I think enough is being done? Some big decisions have been made, but where's the accountability? COP continues to allow nation states to provide us with these nationally determined contributions, but who's holding them accountable? And that continues to be a worry. We've seen, just in the last 2 years with the COVID outbreak, a lot of talk about a just green recovery, and yet, post-COVID, in 2021, the data is showing us the greenhouse gas emissions are already higher than 2019. Is COP going to change that? We can't give up. One of the earlier reports said we must remain optimistic, and we must continue to push and go behind maybe the nation states to the private sector. Push we must. We can't give up.
But let's look at what you're doing, because what is absolutely extraordinary is that you have made this pledge as Mayor of Freetown, capital of Sierra Leone, to grow 1 million trees, in the environs and within the city. How are you setting about it? Who's paying for it? Where are the trees coming from?
Great. So Freetown, the Tree Town, is our plan to plant 1 million trees. We launched it in January 2020, and it's got a number of key features. The first one, to your point of who's paying for it, we started off with absolutely zero money. Communities got involved, diaspora, but really the big money has come from the World Bank and JEF, but it's still not enough. It's been enough to get us 550,000 trees into the ground. Planted. But we also said grow, and this is key. So we have in our city tree stewards. Anybody in our city can be a tree steward, but really importantly, every single tree has a unique identifier. It's tracked in a tree tracker app, which is custom made. And then we've got tree growers, over 600 jobs created, and their job is to make sure those trees grow. Every month they get paid based on the growth of the trees that's uploaded in their phones. So that brings us sustainability. And finally, I would say that one of the things which this whole climate discussion needs to really get under is where is the finance coming from? 550,000 in the ground. We're still raising. It's looking good, but we're still in the process of raising the money for the remaining 450,000 trees. What we've done in Freetown, bringing communities on board, ensuring that we're tracking, monitoring these trees so that they grow, is a good example of what can be done.
Here is a southern state, a southern country, doing something very, very positive. What do you talk about China? Is China doing this? There's not much evidence of it. And surely China needs to do it. Russia needs to do it. We all need to do it.
Planting trees, increasing our carbon sink is really important. And I know that the UK government has made a pledge towards doing that. But when you talk about China, Russia, America, I think where we're going to be starting is reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. As cities, we've pledged in C40 cities, we've had 1,000 plus cities pledged to go net zero by between 2030 and 2050. But what we really need to ensure is happening with the big emitters is that they're reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We're not a big emitter. We're tiny. Our continent is tiny. Planting trees helps bring down the carbon in the environment, but we need the big emitters to actually stop the fossil fuel.
Mayor Aki Sawyerr of Freetown, Sierra Leone, you talk a good talk. Thank you so much, and it sounds very fascinating. Kathy.
Thanks, John. Tonight's main news. World leaders are leaving the COP26 summit after agreeing deals to slash methane emissions and to protect the world's forests. Boris Johnson said he was cautiously optimistic about the prospects of a deal to curb global temperature rises. In the last few minutes, President